Alright guys, so I want to walk you through the basics of how to do the black square challenge. And what you're going to do is, I'm hoping you can see this kind of gray bar up here. This is called the menu bar. And you're going to have a new file that you make in Adobe. And I'd like you to make sure you have your name here. And then this is always going to be the size of your artboard, which is like the white space you work on. You're always going to want to make sure you do it in inches because that tells you how big we'll print it. And for this, we'll just make it inches and we'll do 8 by 8. This will be a nice little square. The rest of this, as far as like CMYK and raster effects, you don't have to worry about just yet. If you hit create, this here, this white space is your artboard. And just to make sure all of our screens look the same, you're going to start by coming to the right-hand corner of your interface of Adobe. It's called Switch Workspace. You go down to make sure it might be on Essentials. Make sure you are on Essentials Classic. And that means you'll have a toolbar on the left. These little double arrows make it either 1 or 2 columns. Here you'll have some options for your tools. This is where the panels live with some quick icons for frequently used windows and panels. So to make a square, you're going to start by going on to the shape tool. You can see like it'll kind of pop up with a quick little tutorial. You're welcome to kind of look through these. But if you click on the bottom triangle of that tool, see how you can get a little white triangle? If you click that and hold it, that means that there's other tools layered behind that top icon. So a lot of these, see there's like really dense with tools. All these tools have multiple versions and multiple alternatives within them. For shape, we're going to do rectangle, but you have rounded rectangle, the ellipse, which is all your circles, polygon, which is also triangle, star, and so on. So you can click rectangle. This little bullseye means you're going to get a rectangle or a square. And the way to control that is if I just click on my mouse, if I pull and drag, I'll just get something. You can kind of see I get little numbers that say like how big it is, like the width and the height. But right now I'm still pulling and dragging with my mouse. If I hit shift on my computer, see that little pink little line? That tells me I have a perfect size. So now as I make this bigger or smaller, it's perfect, so it's going to stay a square. And to delete this, or to delete anything, I'm going to hit the letter V on my keyboard, my selection tool. You can see it's highlighted over here. If I click on either the border or the center of this, anywhere in the whole image, I can click it so it's selected. I can hit delete. That's how I can delete. I can also hit Command Z to undo my most recent action. But sometimes you want to delete something you made a few steps back. Now with my selection tool, I can take this and I can drag it anywhere I want. And you can see how it's a white fill and it's a black stroke. I want this to be a black square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click on the fill. If I double click on that empty space in that white area, I can come down and pick a black. I can hit OK. Now I have a black square. So that is your shape tool, your fill and stroke, and your selection tool. The other thing I want you to understand is layers. You have over here artboard, you have asset export, and then you have layers. So you're going to click on here, and you should have 9 images total. So let's just pretend I'm going to call this, if I double click where it says layer 1, I can have some options. All I really need to do is title this, and maybe I'm going to use the word chaos. I'll hit OK. And then if I go down to create new layer, remember, every letter is going to have 3 versions, so I could have Chaos 1. And if I can double click her, and I can just click right in the letters. If I click right in the letters, I can just change the title there, Chaos 2, and so on. You would want to have all 9 each on their own layer. And what you'll do is, like, let's pretend that I'm going to just hold down Shift and make this kind of huge. Let's pretend this is my 1 layer. Chaos 1 is done. It's obviously not, but let's pretend. I can do lock, which is the space between the eye and the color, and I can hit the eye to toggle it so I don't see it. And now I can work on this new one here. And I can keep locking and toggling so I can only work on 1 layer at a time, but it'll kind of help. So that is how you're going to work with layers. And if, say, like I accidentally make way too many layers, like I don't want this many, if it's selected, I can just come down and hit delete. I can hit delete until I have just the 9 that I want. Now I'm going to also hit this little button to kind of make it go away. The last thing I want to give you a quick little heads up on is a couple of shortcuts that are nice. So if I come back here to my tools, I'm going to hold down Shift and make, now if I want to like line all my squares up, there's a really asinine way where I can watch these little magenta guidelines and they can tell me when things line up. They are helpful, right? You can kind of see them pop up. But I don't always really want to deal with that. Maybe I make a whole bunch of squares and they're all over the place, and it would take too long to kind of do little, like these little movements. If I hold down Shift on my keyboard, which I'm holding down now, and click on these squares, so now they're all selected at once, I can come over here to align. If I scroll down, that kind of happened fast. If I take this little bar and come down more slowly, you can see down here I have align options. I can align to the center, I can align to the top, I can align to the middle, so they're all like in one. I can align here, align back here. So I can align them in different ways with these little shortcuts. What I can also do is if I don't like this, I can hit Command Z and undo until I get back what I used to have. The last thing I want to get you to be aware of is you want to do a selection. You can do a few things. You can do, say I want to select my two outer squares. You can hold down Shift and hit select, and now I can do copy paste and just get those two ones. I could also do copy paste for everything. I could just make a selection over everything and do copy paste, and now I have a bunch. Now this is helpful to make a lot of squares at one time. What's also helpful is if you just want to keep something together, say I always want these two this far apart. If I draw a little selection over just the two of them, these are two of my objects. I can come to the menu bar for object and hit group. Here's that group right there. Now, these guys are all individual agents, but these guys move around as a pair. So it's helpful to know how to line things. It's helpful to know how to group things. If I decide they're now annoying and I don't like them as a couple, I can come up here, object, and ungroup. To make a square kind of tilt, I can hover. I'm on my black arrow, my selection tool. I can hover on the outside and pivot it around that center point. I can do that. If I want to change the size, I'd have to hold down Shift, but I can bring my arrow in and have multiple sizes. So I think this should be enough to get you to be able to complete this project. It's all your basic tools, but try to make sure these are the ones you're using. You're using layers and shapes, they're fill and stroke. You have your selection tool, which is like this black arrow. You want to know where the menu bar is, which is the gray bar, the toolbar on the left, and kind of get a feel for what's happening over here in your panels. And that's really it. Have so much fun.